It's important to support your central ideas with evidence that's relevant and specific to your topics. Your evidence should be as relevant as an elephant standing on your toes. Now that's relevant. It's relevant to you and your toes at least. Your evidence should be as relevant as an elephant standing on your toes. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's well. Thinking of everybody. Hopefully have a little bit of time this weekend to do something for yourself. Remember, we need to be thinking about our mental health in this time. We need to be thinking about the things that give us a little bit of joy, whether it's watching a game, maybe playing an instrument, helping out family, whatever it is. Really focus on the little things in life that bring you a little bit of joy so we can get through this difficult time. So this is going to just be a short little reminder about this week's objectives and this week's text, in which case it's a short episode this week. And I want us to focus on this main learning target this week. I can explain how specific evidence supports a central idea in a story. You all came up with fantastic evidence last week, and everybody's been doing a great job identifying central ideas in stories. But this week, I want us to focus on your own words. I want you to be able to explain how the evidence that you found supports a central idea in a movie or in a book. You're going to be talking about the ways that you think it relates, bringing in your own life experiences, your background knowledge. You want to be able to explain how your evidence supports your central idea. I don't want to see people just drop a quote and then say nothing about it and say, this supports my central idea. You have to explain how specifically it supports your central idea. And that's what we're going to focus on with this week's episode, Nosedive. And this is a great dystopian episode, kind of in the vein of Twilight Zone. It's very unnerving, kind of strange. So it's got some great central ideas, some great deep messages within this episode. So again, to get to central ideas, we always want to be thinking about topics. So here's a few that came to mind. And as you watch this episode, as you think about the deep messages within this episode this week, I want you to think about these topics, because these topics will help you turn into a good central idea. They'll help you turn these topics into a good central idea. Society's expectations of us. We already looked a little bit at that one for the text, The Pedestrian. Popularity, a big one that everybody deals with their whole life, teenagers and adults. Fitting in, popularity, those two kind of go hand in hand. Technology addiction. We've talked about this topic as well in our previous three texts. Let's look at it again in this one. Freedom of expression. This one's important. This is a big one that comes up in this dystopian short episode. And finally, social media. Social media, you're going to see a lot in this episode. They really show us how social media influences our world in a very kind of funny and also kind of dark way. So remember, if you need some reminders of how to come up with a good central idea, keep these in mind. I want you all to notice the small details about characters. What are they like? How do they act? Observe the setting, the colors, and the mood of this dystopian society. I want you to think about one or two important topics as you watch. The topics that we just discussed in the previous slide are a great place to start. And to find relevant evidence that supports your central idea, you should, these are two things that will help you find that, focus on your topic. If your topic is society's expectations, well, then look for evidence that shows characters interacting with society, maybe society asking them to do things. If your topic is technology addiction, well, then look for places in the episode where you see people addicted to their technology and unable to escape it. And again, I want you all to be ready to explain why the evidence that you found supports your central idea. And remember, this is a movie, a short movie, so your evidence will be scenes and will be interactions between characters. So keep those in your mind. Now, what's context? You'll start to hear this word quite a bit. It's important when writing a central idea and when writing anything. Context is just background information that allows your reader to better understand your evidence and your central idea. It's always good to give some background information. When you're telling a story, you don't just jump to the punchline, because otherwise nobody would really understand it. You give your audience a little bit of context, a little bit of background information, and that way they're going to better understand the point of your story. So an example from Nosedive of context is here in yellow on the right-hand side. Lacey is worried about finding a new apartment, and this causes her to make decisions that might not be the best for her. Okay, so great, we needed that. Now when I read a central idea about Lacey and about this episode, I'll know that about Lacey. I'll have some background information about her anxieties. That way I can better understand your central idea. And here is just a visual example, color-coded. This I find to be helpful when you're writing your paragraphs at the end of this week, when you're composing your full paragraphs about a central idea. This is how you're going to explain and analyze your specific evidence, typo there, to support your central idea. So, in red, state your central idea. So, remember, we always want to say where it's coming from. The source of this central idea is the Black Mirror episode Nosedive. So tell us that. Be specific. The Black Mirror episode Nosedive conveys the central idea that society's expectations of us may cause us to ignore our instincts and values. Now, provide us with this evidence that's going to support that central idea. This is in green. Susan, a nice truck driver with a low rating, tells Lacey, "It was like taking off a pair of tight shoes." Now, I've given some evidence, but I've also given a little bit of context like we just talked about. I've told you a tiny bit about Susan, who she is, and also the fact that she has a low rating, which if you haven't watched the episode already, you'll figure out why that is important. And then lastly, in blue, you're going to explain why your evidence supports your central idea. This is the main learning target for this week. In your own words, I want you guys to explain why the evidence that you just dropped supports your central idea. So I say, Susan wants Lacey to understand that once she stopped going after ratings and trying to follow society's expectations, she was able to live a more peaceful and relaxed life. So this is why my evidence supports my central idea. We can truly see the advice that Susan has given Lacey and how it affected Susan and how it improved her life. And this is what you guys will be doing this week. It's a great episode. Check it out and give me a message in the chat section if you have any questions.